On this episode of ResiWeek, Vox officially acquires Onkyo, CEDIA Expo's Launchpad, and Amazon Fire TV TVs. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 293, Fire TV TVs.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Just Add Power, the global leader in video over IP solutions with systems that give you easy installation, unmatched scalability, and outstanding performance.
Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I'm pleased to be joined by two of my good friends. First, we have Mr. Jason Knott. He's the Chief Content Officer at CE Pro. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great, Matt, and I apologize to everybody. I am a little under the weather, but it's just a sinus thing.
It's just sinus. Don't go crazy. It's just
exactly.
Sinuses. Calm down.
You don't have to put a mask on to listen to me.
Nope. Oh, if I had one, I'd put one on right now, but I don't have one kicking around. Then we have Mr. Giles Sutton. He is the co-CEO at CEDIA. How you doing, Giles?
I'm doing really well, thanks, Matt. It's great to see you again.
Good to see you all. Yeah, I didn't get to see anybody in person a week and a half ago because, well, Canada. Yeah. All right, gentlemen, let's kick this off with a story that comes to us, technically Biden, but, you know, that's a different thing. Story that comes to us from CE Pro. Vox and Sharp complete the acquisition of Onkyo and Integra. It's the joint venture of Premium Audio Company. They'll own 75% of Onkyo and Integra and manage the product development, sales, and distribution of those products in that corporation, the Premium Audio Company. That now includes Klipsch, Jamo, Mirage, ProMedia, Magnet, Helco, Mac Audio, Onkyo, Pioneer, Pioneer Elite, Integra, Teak, and Esoteric. So there are some good brands in there. Jason, let me start with you on this. We covered this when this was announced. We were impressed and curious about where they were going to take this, what Vox was going to do with this, and keep in mind Sharp is a part of this game as well. Where do you see this moving forward? Is this going to be a major influx of talent or money or desire to make these brands kind of a little bit bigger than they've been the last couple of years?
Well, there's a couple of things that struck me out of this. One is that it's interesting to me that I think 10 years ago, pre-Sonos, the industry probably would have been alarmed to have a custom brand like Integra being purchased by a company on the consumer electronics side that's going with a direct-to-consumer, that has a sister company that's direct-to-consumer. Now, nobody even blinks an eye about it. You know, Integra has a 35% market share in the CE Pro 100 in the receiver category, so it's still a pretty strong brand. I think it needs some love, so I think it's a positive thing from that standpoint. We know from Vox being a public company, that kind of the second thing that I take from this is that Klipsch is doing very, very well. So the Klipsch, the numbers that they've been producing out of, I can't remember what they call that specific division, has been super strong. So Klipsch, whether it's on the headphone side or it's just on the floor standing speaker side, direct to consumer, as well as being a custom integration brand, is doing very well. So I think that'll give it a boost, Integra a boost, as a sister, maybe packaged brand for these people who are buying the Klipsch speakers. And then the third thing I think is kind of interesting out of this is just the relationship, seeing that relationship with Sharp, kind of the two manufacturers combining together to create this joint venture. At CEDIA Expo last week, it was interesting to see the kind of the joint venture announcement. I'll call it a joint venture announcement that Origin Acoustics has announced that they are going to be distributing the Amina in-wall speaker, invisible speaker brand, not an in-wall, an invisible speaker brand out of the UK, jointly with the distributor LK Stockroom, who already had the exclusive distribution rights for that brand. So I love how you see some of these manufacturers getting really creative in terms of trying to expand the market with these partnerships.
Very good, Jason. Thank you. Giles, when you see this, something that Jason said that caught me was, Integra's got 34% of that CE Pro survey. They're not necessarily considered, and definitely Onkyo isn't. They're not always up there with the Denon Marantz and the Sonys and the Yamahas. Does this give them the influx needed to potentially become? And again, I'm not trying to say they're not a top tier brand, but if you ask someone who's a Yamaha dealer or a D&M dealer if they'll take an Integra, usually it's not a positive response.
Well, I think it's amazing, isn't it? When we look at every month, there's almost another acquisition or another partnership that's happening within the channel. They had a very interesting strategy with the market. Obviously, they had the Onkyo brand that was very much a consumer brand that you could find on the internet, and they had the Integra brand that was really just CI channel only. And I felt that actually the positioning, the way that actually resonated very well with the market. Certainly, when I was an integrator in the UK, Integra was a very strong brand over there, and it sort of set an example as to how dealers can still have price protection over certain products, but yeah, it seems that they've actually struggled a little bit recently to sort of balance those things. I don't think Onkyo is as widely known on a consumer side, I think, as Denon and Marantz, and that's always been one of the challenges with the industry, is having consumer awareness, so you actually have the consumer sales, direct to consumer sales versus the channel sales as well. But I think being part of Vox is extremely exciting. I mean, the brands that they have there are extremely well respected performance audio brands, so I think it will do a lot for the product. And hopefully, certainly from a sound standpoint, we'll start to see some of maybe these brands being integrated into some of these receivers. It would be interesting to see how it develops.
Yeah, that's very good. One of the side notes to this that we just wanted to touch on, because we're talking acquisitions, is Nortec Control that had been owned by Melrose has been divested for $285 million. We don't know who the purchaser or the acquirer is at this point. There's been a lot of speculations if you're online, but we don't know who that is because, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems that they're a public company, and as such, that's got to go through all the regulatory things before that can go public.
Yeah, I confirmed with Nortec that the purchase did happen, but there are regulatory issues that needed to be worked through, and they're prevented from saying who it is.
Yes.
So you got to make the assumption that it's some sort of public company, but they didn't specifically say it was a public company, just so you know.
Well, if there's federal regulators, I'm gonna put two and two together.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to watch that. We'll talk about that a little bit more. What's interesting in that is Melrose purchased Nortec for $2.8 billion back in 2016. They spun off Braun and Newtone to Madison Industries for $3.6 billion, but again they sold the rest of Nortec Control, which is essentially 2 gig Alon Speakercraft Linear, Panamax Furman, and Proficient for, as we said, $285. So that'll be interesting to watch. So when we know more, we'll tell you more. Coming to us from Residential Systems inside the CEDIA Launchpad. This is from our friend Cindy Davis. She walked the floor and interviewed a couple of the companies, and this includes 4 companies that were exhibiting. So read through this. It gives a really good overview of Juke Audio, Crew Labs, Auto Slide, and Guard Dog Solutions. Giles, you were in Indy. You were at Expo. Obviously, as if you followed, I missed it, and I'm kind of disappointed about that because thing. I love, the Canada. The Canada Biden thing. It's too, Anyways, before I get into trouble, what exactly does Launchpad mean to these companies? Like I've always loved originally Rookie Row and then Innovation Alley and now Launchpad. It's all the same thing, just different branding. This is where we always find those awesome little companies that just do that little thing that everybody needs. What does it mean to those companies to be able to be featured in the Launchpad area?
Oh, it's absolutely huge. It means a lot to all of them. And yeah, I mean, for most of us, I think this is our version of the like CES, Eureka Park. I think we all love the Launchpad, and there's some amazing success stories from Launchpad, like Josh AI, for example, where you've had brands that have exhibited there for the first time. For me, it's where you really go to look for true innovation, where there's a lot of brands that have new ideas and ways of solving problems that integrators may not have thought about. It's a shame not all of the brands could be there. There were some other brands that I think were terrific, like Oro, for example. But it was fantastic to see Autoslide there, which is one of our Propel partners, offering some really amazing solutions for sliding doors, for pet sliding windows and things like that, which is very good from a accessibility standpoint as well. As well as Guard Dog, which actually won the award, which offers a really, really clever solution. One that actually we've been looking at as well. We've actually been playing around with it at CEDIA. We've had a bunch of volunteers playing with it just to try and figure it out. But what it does is obviously protects Wi-Fi networks from intrusion, and that's a really, really cool product as well. So yeah, a great selection of brands there. Even though not everyone quite was there this year, but extremely important part of the show, and I'm glad it managed to still be there at the show as well. Yeah,
very good, Jason. And I'm not asking you to pick favorites, because that's not what we do here. We don't pick winners. Not saying there aren't winners. We just don't pick winners. When you follow this, and again, you've covered this for years, what does it take for one of these companies to take this opportunity? Right, a lot of times, and correct me if I'm wrong, Giles, but you can't exhibit in Launchpad multiple years in a row. It's you get to a point, you get to do it, and then you have to move on into the rest of the floor. What does it take for a company to have a good showing during Launchpad and then really capitalize on that showing?
Well, think of this as our industry Shark Tank. And remember Ring, well, I can't remember what it was called before, but when Jamie went on Shark Tank and then got rejected, and boy, did those guys look like a bunch of bozos. But this is our version of that, and which is really cool. And the thing that I like about this is when they come to this, the custom channel has those unique elements that is different than consumers. Like, there's so many manufacturers that just don't pay attention to the custom installation channel. And when they do, when you do things like have dedicated tech support, you have exclusive product, you have a margin opportunity, you have all these things that are super important to the custom channel, you instantly get loyalty. And I think a lot of times they don't understand that or recognize the value of what they actually need to bring to the channel till they go to CEDIA Expo and they meet the dealers face to face. They talk to them, they get their feedback, not just on the value of the product or what it is, but how they can fashion a program that's best suited for custom integrators. So I think it's a two-way street. The integrators are learning and getting to see some of these super cool cutting-edge projects that could be products that could be the next Ring. We don't know, but it could be. One of these could be the next Ring. But then these manufacturers are also learning about the industry.
Yeah, and I think that's a key point of sometimes manufacturers overlook the fact that when they go and sell, for example, on Amazon, right? So if Guard Dog, to use that as an example, they go and sell on Amazon, you're trusting that your consumers are going to find you and are looking for you. When you connect with any industry, but specifically our industry, we go and we promote these to customers. We're sales reps, essentially, for all of these products. When you want to know why the channel gets so passionate over Sonos, that's why. It's because we're sales reps. We're selling it. We're living it. We're in there doing it. And again, I just use that as an example. But I think there's a huge benefit for both the companies and for the integrating community. All right, gentlemen, let's move on now that I've ranted on that to a story that comes to us from a Residential Tech Today. JBL Synthesis adds HDMI 2.1, 8K AVRs, and a new dedicated subwoofer amplifier. If you have never done a JBL Synthesis demo, one, what are you doing with your life? You're making bad choices. Two, you need to go sit in a demo room at some point when there's demo rooms and you can do all that. To date, I can confidently say the demo I've had of Synthesis beats any other surround demo I've ever been in anywhere. And it was on a show floor. That's like not a $2 million dedicated room, on a constructed booth on a show floor. Fantastic. Now that I've geeked out for a second, Giles, when you see this, one of the things that hit me as very interesting with this is they're doing a upgrade program for their HDMI boards. And this is a typical, this is not like a hot swappable Crestron Media, I'm blanking on the name, but they're big, hot swappable platform. They're massive MVR matrix. This is a traditional receiver in looks, a processor that you can go in and upgrade this for. What does it mean to finally have and again, I realize this is a top tier AVR, but what does it mean to be able to finally upgrade a board? Because this is the first one, to my knowledge, to go and upgrade a board. Is this something that hopefully we can see down the road?
Yeah, as you were saying that, I was trying to think whether I knew of another example. There may be another one out there, but I think this is brilliant from JBL. I mean, it really is. JBL Synthesis is really one of those products that has really stood the test of time. I mean, I mean, it must have been on the market something like maybe 15 years or something like that.
At least,
yeah. As far as I'm aware, it's still one of the only sort of end-to-end solutions when it comes to home theaters, where they're literally covering every single aspect of it, from the electronics through to the speakers specifications. So, and therefore obviously the design service for the dealers as well. But I think this is actually a really important upgrade to the upgrade path for the product. I think. And one of the things that integrators do here a lot is, when you're spending a lot of money on investing in something, is how long is it going to be until it has to be updated? And one of the justifications for spending a lot of money on something is, the length of time that it will be installed for. So I think the idea that you can hot swap input boards like that is really, really clever from their side. Because these technologies are still continuing to evolve on the HDMI side, and this certainly means that the product will have a much longer shelf life, you'd assume.
Yeah, for sure. And just for minor clarification, because I didn't do it earlier, it's got to go to an authorized service center to do it, but it still can happen. I've had way too many conversations with clients over their multiple $1,000 receiver that is outdated in 6 months.
That's one of the big debates, is you talk about people who, I want to sell to audiophile customers. And then you see, one of the funniest cartoons I ever saw was where it was an audiophile looking at it, and he says, "Oh, I'm an audiophile." And the guy responds, says, "Oh, you mean you overpaid?"
Exactly.
So, that's the impression that's out there.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and receivers have always been, well, it's funny because we're just talking about Onkyo and Integra, and we're now talking about this, but receivers have been one of the more challenging sales in that regard, because video technology has always been what's moved on much faster than audio technology. So when you have high-end receivers, typically then you with something like the JBL Synthesis receiver, in the past they've always sort of struggled to keep up with the technology that's coming out from like Denon and Marantz, because they're bringing products out a lot quicker. So this is a real very clever solution to that.
Jason, what does it mean? Synthesis to me is, again, one of, I think, two. I think Pro Audio and Theory are the only other kind of end-to-end, I don't want to say home theater in a box, but it's technically just a phenomenal home theater in a box. It is a complete kit. You can go and get a synthesis for whatever spec you want, and it's end to end. All you got to do is plug in a source. Is this kind of one of the best ways to get a fully functional theater versus designing and building a la carte?
Well, it's funny. This is kind of like the age-old question, because that's why the first word of CEDIA is custom, because integrators are tasked with, in essence, selecting the best product for the right application, no matter what the manufacturer is. Versus, this we could spin this whole conversation into the platform conversation around Amazon and Google and everybody else of, hey, I'm an Amazon or I'm an Apple person. I just want to get only Apple products. Well, that's I think that forever integrators are going to continue to find the best products that they can for the best application. That's why there's so many manufacturers in this channel. There's name one guy out there who's selling only JBL synthesis. He's never going to. He's always going to have at least a good, better, best solution. He's going to have an array of different products. I think this is great. We've seen turnkey software all of a sudden become the norm in the channel, whereas 5 years ago nobody was doing end-to-end software solutions. So you never know. This could be a trend. I still think integrators are going to pick and choose the best products for different applications. And but I will reiterate what you said, by the way. I remember spending an entire day at the Northridge facility at Harman and getting the whole anechoic chamber and the blind testing and the I believe they have a JBL synthesis theater room there, and it will just blow you away. And I highly recommend everybody do it.
It's mind-blowing. All right, we've got time for one more story, and you kind of hinted it on me, Jason, which I'm not sure I love. But Amazon has now got branded Fire TVs. So it's a Fire TV, just so you follow along, that will stoke some smart TV competitions. This comes to us from ResTech Today and our friend Michael Heiss. This kind of came as a surprise to me. I randomly saw it this weekend on a Best Buy website. I didn't even know they were coming out. I had missed this article, and they're out there. So it is a full, obviously, TV that is based on the Amazon Fire TV platform. So instead of your Samsung Tizen or LG's WebOS or Vizio SmartCast, it's all Amazon Fire. What I found fascinating is when you kind of read down through the lines on the Omni series, it's integrated with all the Amazon Smart Home Alexa products. So you can sit there, as mine's trigger in the other room, you can sit there and instantly have your Ring connected to your Fire TV, so that whenever you're on that TV, and not on the device on that HDMI, because that's the real kicker. No matter what you're watching, it can kick over and show you picture-in-picture and do all those things. You can do video calling. Jason, is this kind of the platform approach that the general consumer has been looking for forever? Just a simple platform where everything just kind of works.
The answer is probably yeah. The consumers want a single platform. I don't know if you guys saw, I don't remember who the website was, but one of the tech websites, consumer tech websites, was like, the smart home isn't worth it because there's too many platforms.
Yeah.
And so that's that general consumer consensus thought process is, gee, if it's I want that same platform across everything. Like, my wife's an Apple person. Heaven forbid I would ever bring home a product that is not Apple. I'm an anti-Apple person. So heaven forbid that she get me something. So I don't know why we have those affinities, but we do. But I think that people look, there's an affinity to Amazon. There's certainly an affinity to Apple. There's an affinity to Microsoft. So I think there's definitely these Google, there's definitely these platform layers that these big players are going to have a play in. But I'll go back to my previous conversation. Integrators are always going to pick the custom products, the best products for the application. It's going to be, that's why I guess everybody's so excited about Matter and the probability of all of these different Samsung smart things and Google Thread and all these things connecting and talking to each other. So maybe this right now is an Amazon-only platform. Maybe 2 years from now, it's not. It's a ubiquitous, agnostic platform that talks to everybody. And so that means the Sony TV, the Samsung TV, the LG TV will be able to do the same thing.
Wouldn't that be a dream? Giles, let's wrap this up with you. Knowing that I haven't seen this in person, you haven't seen this in person, provided it is a quality looking display, it looks good side by side. It competes. It doesn't have to win. It just needs to compete. What does it do to Samsung and Sony and LG on kind of on the general consumer side? Because integrators are still going to Jason's point, work on integrating things. But if I've got just a regular room in a client's home where they want to be able to see their doorbell, this is it seems, again, we haven't seen it. I don't see why I wouldn't sell this.
I completely agree. I mean, it's where you see all these sort of pieces come together. It's like, and that's really what homeowners, the vast majority of consumers want is convenience, and it just all to just work out of the box. And that's why, I think this sort of surprised perhaps a lot of this. I don't know whether you'd heard any rumors about this, but unlike the we've heard rumors that Apple will be releasing a TV for years, and yet nothing. And then Amazon just go and do it. And I think if anything, this really means that Matter is going to have to be pretty seamless. What happens with Matter is going to be critical for these other brands, because at the moment, yes, you can buy a Samsung, you can buy other TVs, you can integrate Google or Amazon products or Apple, HomeKit products with them, but there is still some setup involved, and there's other products that you need. Whereas this sort of out of the box, you can see how it just slots straight into a very relatively low cost smart home setup, and for sure, I think it's gonna I would think accelerate Matter's implementation across multiple brands, because the value proposition is right there, and it's one of these things. It's like as soon as things become easier for people, they're just going to take off, and you can see how they could add to this with a whole suite of other products. You can see what's next, what's coming down the line, really. So, yeah, I think the convenience alone will mean this will be a strong contender to those other brands.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to watch, and I'm sure it'll be a hot ticket product coming into Thanksgiving and Christmas and all of that fun stuff. All right, gentlemen, let's wrap it there. Thank you both so much for joining us. Giles, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Cedia, where can they do that?
Either emailing through our member at cedia.net email or Cedia Giles on Twitter.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Knott, thank you for joining us. Hopefully you start to feel better pretty soon. If people want to connect with you, learn more about CE Pro, where can they do that?
They can obviously go to cepro.com and subscribe for free, get our newsletter for free, and you can follow me on Twitter at Jason W. Knott.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.